At the heart of the Jersey Shore, wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Get up, get out, do something. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin, 6:07 Wednesday, November 23rd, 30 degrees, getting up to 49 today. WOBM AM 1160, 1310 News Talk Radio, streaming live on the Radio Pump app and WOBMAM.com, 732-505-1160. To join the conversation, we are now joined by Rod Cologne. He is, you know what? And it's always tricky for me. Good morning, Rod. How are you?
Good morning.
Oh boy, here we go. It's always tricky for me when I'm trying to do my Facebook write up, and I'm like, how do I describe the guest I'm about to have? And then we have the problem later because Zach wants to label the YouTube, and he's like, what do I label him? Because you got a lot of things going on, and I don't know that you're able to be labeled. Right? So why don't you tell folks what it is what you kind of do for a living?
Sure. Well, if I was speaking to a second or third grade class, they would call me as the job doctor.
The job doctor.
The job doctor,
okay.
Right? So, but for everyone else, what I do is I help students as young as 5th and 6th grade to professionals and executives around the world and helping them to manage their career as a business. So for most, when we're working at an organization, we're labeled by the company that we work for. But God forbid something happens and they no longer have that engagement, they lose their identity.
Right.
I'm all about your identity is your business, it's your enterprise, it's your corporation, it's you. And we need to start thinking about it and working it that way.
Okay. So the obvious question that springs to mind is, whenever we have someone in who is, somebody that kind of helps counsel people or kind of set them on the right path or motivate, et cetera, is we ask, well, what qualifies you, Rod Cologne, to do that work?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeremy. Worked at J.P. Morgan for 16 years in human resources and got to see what happens on the other side of the curtain. I was the one, you could call me Darth Vader or whatever.
Yeah.
And, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Right.
And, I was Mr. Intimidator. And so I got a perspective from that side. And in 1997, I decided to start my own practice in recruiting and many other things as well to kind of share with individuals what really happens on the other side, to help them, to really even the playing field.
Right. So when you work for a big company like Morgan Stanley and your human resources, if you really want to know everything that's happening in an organization, that's really the spot to be in, right?
Absolutely.
Because first, you go from the middle manager that comes to you and says, I want to fire Johnny, tell me how to do it, right? To the person that comes to you and says, Rod, this guy did X, Y, and Z. How do I not fire him? Right? You learn every bit of gossip, every bit of whatever. That's your job, right?
It's you're the eyes and ears of the organization, and you protect them. I mean, it's you want to call it internal affairs, you want to call it whatever. Yeah, the key is that you see a lot,
right?
You don't say a lot, and you just kind of work it out in what's in the best interest of the organization.
Right. Very cool. Okay, so now here you are helping folks kind of build their brand. I'll call it
exactly.
And where do you do that? I mean, what are your vehicles for doing that?
Well, a couple things. Well, I'm a motivational speaker. So organizations, corporations, colleges, high schools will bring me in as a speaker to talk about the themes of managing one's career as a business. I'll do that as an executive coach. We'll work on it from a perspective in some of the podcasts that I have that are shared. I've wrote a book on it as well. But really, individuals kind of engage me on a one-on-one or group way, and just it's a unique way of thinking, which is you hear about you should manage your career as a business, and you hear quite a bit about it. But if you really find out, no one really teaches the techniques and the tactics and the functional space of how to actually execute on that, and that's my space. That's what I love.
Right. That's true. It's difficult. So you were talking, for example, as just as we came on air, you were talking about LinkedIn.
Sure.
As an example.
Absolutely.
So explain LinkedIn for the. I hear a lot of people that say, should I be on that? Like, I don't know why I should be on that. I don't need to. I've worked here for the last 12 years and blah, blah, blah. Why do you want to be on LinkedIn?
Just last week, I ran a program over at our Georgian Court University. I worked with the Women in Leadership Development. These are 25 seniors And I brought in alums. And one of them spoke and said, Rod Cologne said over 10 years ago that I should be on LinkedIn. I'm like, nah, this ain't for me. I'd rather be on Facebook or something else. And I realized over the years that LinkedIn is critically important because of it's my brand. Right. So really the key thing about LinkedIn is it provides you an opportunity to be your website. And with all the scams and spams and all that's going on, a really good way to have your own website is just have your nice quality profile on LinkedIn so everybody gets to know you. The other thing is, as I was coming here and did my research on what's going on here, right, with, waking up with your show, I was able to look at your background. I was, Kelly, the producer who brought me in, just find out a little bit about individuals. Right. So that's another good thing. People can find out about you. And then the key thing where I spend most of my time is knowing who my friends know.
Sure.
So if you accept my invitation, which I sent you this morning, you accept it as, hey, Rod and Jeremy are now connected. Those individuals are not in my network are now part of your family and vice versa. And that's powerful.
Yeah, I always tell people, my LinkedIn personal story, Reader's Digest version, is I was laid off from a company many years ago. Mm-hmm. I worked for Borders Books, and it wasn't the growth industry that I thought it was going to be, the book business. Got laid off, right? Would never been fired from a job in my life, so I was like, oh my God. They were contracting, whatever. So next day, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, how do I support my family? Like, what do I do? Right? And I literally, for the next week, worked LinkedIn. Right. And I think I worked backwards, which is I identified the companies I wanted to work for. Mm-hmm. I didn't look for the help wanted signs. Mm-hmm. I identified the companies I wanted to work for. And then I found people in my network who worked for those companies or knew people that were in HR, et cetera, et cetera. And I started emailing the heck out of everybody I knew and saying, listen, can you get me in the door and have that? And frankly, a month later, I had a really good job. So, I mean, it's a huge vehicle as opposed to, you used to look at the classifieds. It doesn't happen like that anymore.
See, Jeremy, you're, just sitting across from you, there's a certain intuitiveness that you have to this type of work and LinkedIn and connecting with people and speaking with them. But I would say that both of us are in the minority. Right. And that people just don't. They fear it. They're like, oh, my goodness, what they're going to think and my value and what am I going to say? And, oh, they're so busy. But for us, it's just these are things we need to do. So in essence, what I share and teach is how to shift the mindset from being an indentured servant to an organization to running a wonderful enterprise, which is you. Right.
Very interesting. So, gotcha. And it also, I imagine that also helps you perform better at your job with the confidence knowing that, that you're not, you don't need to play scared every day, but rather you're an asset and they're lucky to have you, right?
The company we work for is a client.
Right.
They're a client, and we provide the best valuable service to a client. They don't own us. Matter of fact, when we fill out that application to join the organization, it's called at will, which is they can let you go at any time, for all the right reasons, and I could quit at any time.
For all the wrong reasons.
Right? So we need to appreciate that it's employment at will. And that means if I'm working at an organization, we always keep our eyes open for plan B and plan C and plan D. We have to, but most don't. They just fixate that, if the tea leaves, like when you were at Borders, there's downsizing this area, the closing of this store, this, and I'm just working hard. I say, I just got to put more hours. I just got to put more time. I just got to do more work. You know what? As a business owner, you analyze risk. Sure. You analyze, and these are things that, irrespective if you are a healthcare major or biology or engineering or literature, you don't have to be a business major to figure this one out. You just got to run it as a business.
Gotcha. When we come back, Rod Cologne, I want to talk about the Georgia Court program that you're very involved with, right? Because I think it's a pretty cool program here at the right here in Ocean County, and we'll talk about how you're impacting young women every day in a positive way. So, wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Rod, I can't believe I let that whole thing go, and I didn't say another word after I had all kinds of other comments that complimented that, but I'm going to move swiftly forward. Rod Cologne, back after this.
Wake up with Jeremy Grunin wherever you go. Download the Radio Pup app for your smartphone or tablet. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Hey, welcome back. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin, 621. Rod Cologne, we are talking about branding yourself, building a building a better you to be a more marketable commodity, make more money, et cetera, et cetera. So, you're doing this. You're very active at Georgia Court and this Women's in Leadership Council thing. So, explain to me what are the hurdles? Because a lot of people hear about these women in leadership groups and they say, I don't get it. Like, what's the difference? Women, men. I mean, we're all like, we know that there's a gender gap as far as pay. But is it more difficult for women to kind of move forward in these kind of roles?
Well, research shows that there are absolute major differences between men and women. Matter of fact, when we look at some research just as to how women apply for work versus men, that women will tend to look at the job description in detail and say, you know what, let me pass. Let me hold off on this. And while men would say, who cares? Let me just submit and what the heck.
Right.
There's also so many stereotypes and various things that go on. But what I love working with at Georgian Court is that I have 25 seniors, women, right? And the whole thing is I provide them with 6 sessions during the fall, during the spring, about this whole aspect of managing your career and about owning it. And when they're together, right, and I've taught at Georgian Court as well, where there's a mix of men and women, and you could just tell that in the room. And I'm just generalizing here, that it's predominantly the men that are speaking up, sharing, and kind of that. And when you just have women together, they're just they're at their best. So I look at that from a perspective that I help them and work with them as to their interview style, their branding, their profile. And we just had them with a mix of people in my network at the mansion. Not sure if you've ever been to the mansion at Georgian Court. Yep. It's just a beautiful place. And so here we had a holiday networking event that I had these 25 women with 25 professionals in my network, networking, engaging, sharing, business cards, the whole aspect of that. So love that spot. Matter of fact, my daughter is part of the 25 in there, which is cool to see your daughter grow. And then as we move on into the spring session, we're going to do a mock interview, and it's going to be just right, dead on, just like I was at JP. And
right.
Here we go. And tell me about yourself, which is a question that we all have. And it says, well, if you don't know who you are and where you're going, we got a problem.
Sure,
we have an issue. And then so we'll wrap it up with at the end of the year that they have to give a presentation of them coming back to Georgian Court in the future, receiving an award about all the different things that they've done and accomplished. So they're visualizing as well. It's a powerful program. This is our 4th year, and have many. Matter of fact, one of your producers here, Kelly Fliller, I was able to help and support in the past.
She's actually my director of communication for the foundation.
Excellent.
So she. I mean, Zach. I don't want Zach to feel bad because he's the producer. Right, Kelly Kelly makes sure that we get great guests like yourself.
Uh-huh.
So and then she does a lot of work for the foundation and for what we do. In our real life. I think you bring up a great point. Certainly around the interview process. When I used to kind of counsel folks on how to go through an interview process, because as myself being a multi-unit leader for a long time,
sure,
you're always trying to get people promoted, right? And so you always want to make sure. And so the question I always ask them to ask at the end, and this is like Jedi level because most people can't do it, is, when somebody says, do you have any questions? We all know that you better have questions about the job, right?
Correct.
But the question I always tell them to ask is, based on the interview we've just had, right, do you see any obstacles that would prevent you from offering me this job?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And most people look at me and say, how could I possibly ask that question? And I said, because a job interview is just like sales, right? It's overcoming objections. If you don't flesh out the objections, you're never going to be able to deal with them,
mm-hmm,
right? So everybody has an objection. There's something that's bothering them. Get it out on the table and take another shot at being able to overcome it. But it's hard for people to grasp that.
Yeah, but Jeremy, you're hoping that the individual on the other side is going to be honest.
Absolutely.
It's going to be authentic.
Absolutely.
And in many cases, I knew immediately within 5 minutes, it ain't happening.
Right.
But I had to give the courtesy 20 minutes.
Right.
And if at the end you said to me, well, Rod, is there anything that's holding you back? Inside, I'm saying, hell yeah. There are about 25 things that are holding you back. But I could never say that in representing the organization in the way that I have it. So I would say, thank you so much. At this point, I can't see anything, but I'm sure we'll get back to you. And, so the whole thing there is, we have to be a question that I like is that we're always looking to move it as a business.
Right.
And if you're a business owner representing a powerful, services, and I'm across the table from the executives who are making the decision, am I going to tell them right there in that that first session, is there anything right now that's preventing, you from moving forward with us? Might be a little premature.
Okay.
Right? Just might be a little premature. And all depending on where you are in the cycle. Now, I have individuals in my network that do that. It's gutsy. Look, there's no right or wrong. Right. There's no right or wrong, but it is all a part of risk management. The risk is they're not going to tell. Now, if I love you, I'm going to say, oh, no, not at all, Jeremy. I think you're great. Love you. I can't wait for you to come to the second round, and here we go. So it's 3 questions that I like folks to ask.
Hold that. Let's hold the 3 questions that you like folks to ask. We're also going to talk about veterans and how you work with them. Rod Colon, Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin, back right after this.
The news never stops at WOBMAM.com. Get the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from Town Square Towers at the heart of the Jersey Shore. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Get up, get out, do something. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. 6:34 Wednesday, November 23rd, 30 degrees, getting up to 49 today. WOBM AM 1160, 1310. News Talk Radio. Streaming live on the Radio Pop app and WOBMAM.com. 732-505-1160 to join the conversation. We are joined in our studio by Rod Colon. We are talking about kind of building your resume, building your brand, marketing yourself. He is a specialist in that, owning your career. So you had 3 questions that we teased out, the 3 questions that you have to ask in an interview. Go ahead.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
How do you measure success? Question number 1.
Good.
Question number 2. Has there been anyone in this role, the one that you're interviewing me for, that there's been someone, a superstar, a Hall of Famer, either current or in the past, that you could think of? And you're not, right. There is. So it's great. Well, tell me about their character and competence as to how they set themselves apart from everyone else. Right? The third question I say is, Jeremy, I want you to just project 6 months down the road.
Right.
What would I have to do to meet your expectations?
Right.
And you share, whatever. And then, all right, let's raise the bar a bit. Tell me, what would I have to do to exceed your expectations?
Look at you.
Right? So these are 3 questions that I asked that are not about, Jeremy, when do I get paid?
Right.
What's my vacation?
Yeah.
Where's my cubicle?
Yeah.
Do I get a car? Tell me about my benefits. These are all questions that we
never want to ask those questions, right?
These are questions we want to ask in the negotiation.
Right, in the job offer stage. Right.
So most folks think that these are questions that they want to ask up front. No, we ask when they say yes. And now that I got you, that you want me, now I can ask these questions.
Right. Yeah. When somebody asks, how many vacation days do I get? I'm like, yeah, that's great. This is a great interview. Tell me about the work that you do with veterans and kind of integrating folks back into the civilian workforce.
Sure. Yeah. I just came back from Raleigh, North Carolina, where there's certainly many different places there for the military, and over here at Fort Dixon, the mega base. The issue is that what is their background, and how do we translate what they do to the civilian life and world? And they struggle with that. So I work with them to say, well, tell me, what is it that you do? What is it that you love? What is it that you enjoy? And what is it that you want to do? And begin to kind of get those words so that they understand how to best market it and share it. For many, it's just so difficult to say, well, I'm in a CY X-ray V76 and, that's a business analyst.
Right.
So we want to help them with that. The other thing is about risk. In a military life, risk can be someone's life. Right. And just screwing up. But in business world, as we both know, we need to take some measured risk that is acceptable. that's a struggle for them. So for many times when they're interviewing, they may appear to be a bit rigid, not flexible.
Yeah.
And we need to help them with that because
Absolutely.
most individuals, when they want someone on their team, they're not looking for an automaton, a robot, or they just want someone who's be able to think on their feet, which we were talking, in between segments. So that's how I kind of help, and I do various programs and all the other things that I do. I incorporate them as well, and any vets out there that are interested, I get a copy of my book for free.
Right.
So
that's a great point. We always looked at, when I was looking to hire an operator or an operations type person, loved military. Right, because they were very regimented and very, had everything organized and on task. If you're looking for a sales leader, typically you're not looking for that because that's not where their mindset is, or not necessarily. They haven't been programmed to be dynamic thinkers for some time. But those are great points, and it's important to be able to overcome those objections and to kind of repackage yourself. Give me like a 1 minute. 1 minute recap on millennials and what's so different about kind of dealing with them.
I got 3 of them. Well, millennials are just, they're great, but they've been pampered, right? So as I'm a baby boomer, and one of the things in working with millennials that I have to be aware of, and so much of what I talk about is being aware, is that they've been nurtured in a certain way that I haven't. My dad, former Marine, right? Marine, and there was a certain way we grew up, and yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, and and when we get to work, it's just tell me what I have to do, and I get it done. If I have any issues, I'll let you know. For millennials, and I'm generalizing here, not everyone is the same, but there's why. Well, Jeremy, why do I have to do this? And you're thinking, what do you mean? Just get it done. Says, no, but I want to know that the work that I'm doing for you is important. It's important to the community. It's important for the organization, and I want to know the value that I have in doing this type of work. So you get these why to death, right? It's just like it's just, can you just do the job, please? Right? As a baby boomer, you have to think differently. They're very much into the community. They're very much in talking with each other. Yep. So if I give someone a raise, and it's a millennial, there's a good idea that everyone knows what I got because we're all looking out for each other. So and we laugh about it, and I talk to my kids, and I'm in many different colleges around the United States, and we talk about these things. But how I help the millennials is I need you to think more like Gen X. Right. And baby boomers, because, as you can assimilate more to them, you're in a fast track. Right. The more they look at you and they kind of just, it's another millennial, they're not going to put you down the thing.
Although this is the first generation in our history that older generations are having to adjust to them rather than vice versa. Because if you don't understand how to manage a millennial, if you don't understand the difference in their mindsets and their sensibilities, you'll never be able to integrate them appropriately into your workforce.
75% of our workforce by 2020 will be millennials.
Absolutely. So it's got to go figure that out. All right, it's that time where we give you the magic wand, the pixie dust, the fairy dust, the ability just to wiggle your nose. Rod Colon, job doctor, the job doctor. What are we doing with that magic wand?
Well, reach out to me. The best way is on LinkedIn. It's Rod Colon, RODCOLON. And what I do really is work with individuals and students. I mean, I even had an individual who was preparing for an interview for Princeton. Right. And the parents said, look, I really want you to prep this individual for the interview at Princeton University. So we're here to help. I'm here to help. So either as a motivational speaker, if your organization is looking for someone to share and speak with them, or as a career coach, an executive coach or executive strategist, if it's veterans, if it's students, happy to help, happy to support, and certainly wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving.
So
as well.
On that note, how can they reach out to you? Where could they find you? I know you have a book. Go ahead, give us that.
Yeah, the book is Win the Race for 21st Century Jobs. Put CEO power into your job search and career management. You could get that on Amazon. And the best way to reach me, really, is what we were talking about before on LinkedIn. You see my happy, smiley face there with my headphones on my podcast, and we're here to help. And it's something that we do nationwide.
Right, and you also have a Facebook page, which I know Rod Colon Consulting, right? And, you're all over the place.
Yeah, we are.
That's good. Well, Rod, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. And listen, hope for you and your family have a fantastic Thanksgiving and enjoy the holiday season.
Likewise. Thanks to everybody. God bless.
More Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin right after this.